And welcome back to another video. On this one, I'm gonna keep it short and direct on how to reduce the dry time after you've shampooed your interior. So that's like shampooing or extracting the seats, the floor mats, carpeting, what have you, anything fabric. How do you dry it faster? I'll kind of give you when it's gonna dry fast naturally, when you should increase or when we increase or decrease the dry time, what tools we use, what methods we use, and what you can do to dry your interior faster. So I'll have everything linked down below of anything that I do mention. But anyways, let's get started with this video. All right, so for starters, if you're in a warm environment, drying the interior should be relatively easy because you have the sun to help you. So if you're mobile or if you're at least outside, it's a relatively warm day, or if it's hot, then it's gonna be much easier to dry the interior because the sun is just always baking the interior. Now, of course, a portion of that is still gonna fall on you to not introduce that much water into the interior, right? So the more water you put into the fabric, the longer it's gonna take. For instance, we use a sapphire upholstery tool and it greatly minimizes the water that's introduced into the fabric. If you're using more of the standard head, well, you're gonna put more water into the fabric. You're not gonna damage it, but you're putting more water into it, so it'll naturally take longer. Now, if your interior is just soaked, and it's like taking hours for it to dry, the detailer did something wrong because it's not supposed to be soaking wet. I mean, in 2 to 3 hours, 80% of the interior should be dry after you shampoo the fabric surfaces. If it's just drenched in water, that's a big problem. So if you're using the proper methods and you're minimizing water, then if you're in a warm to relatively warm day, it should take 2-3 hours for it to dry. 4 hours, everything should be dry. If you're in cold climates, if it's raining, if it's overcast and raining with no heat, the interior will naturally take longer to dry because there's no source drying it, right? There's no heat going on. And even if you put an air mover on the interior, as I'm about to talk about, even if you put an air mover on an interior with not ideal conditions for it to dry, it'll still take longer than warm weather. So that's pretty obvious. So the way that we dry interiors faster is with air movers. So this is an easy dry pod, which it spins 360 downwards. And this is the X Power something air mover, and it just, like directional, just one way. Now on this one, it has 3 settings, low, well, it has 1, 2, 3, low, medium, high, I guess you could say. And then this one does have that, it has a timer. Now, if you're actually doing like commercial residential carpet cleaning, this probably comes more in handy. For us detailers, it's not a big deal. I don't really use this option that often. This one, all it has is an on-off. You turn it on, it starts spinning. You turn it off, it stops spinning. Now, each one does come with an outlet, so you can connect the air mover to each air mover. So if this one's plugged into an outlet, I can run this air mover off of this one and just keep on leapfrogging them. Because in the residential space or commercial space, you're stacking a lot of air movers if there's like water damage or just after a carpet cleaning treatment. So that's why they do that. So not saying these are the best, but there are pros and cons to each one. But by default, how you're able to further reduce the dry time is with air mover. Again, assuming that you're doing the proper steps and you're not introducing that much water to begin with. Upgrading to a sapphire upholstery tool will already help too. But just further decrease the dry time would be with air movers. Now, the reason why we use it is like here in the shop, although it might be hot outside, it's gonna take longer in the shop just because we're in a cool environment as far as the shade goes and the sun's not hitting it. So we have to, if we have a car coming in at 9 and it has to be out by 12 and the next customer is gonna start at 12:30 and the customer is waiting to get their interior back, then we want to give them a dry interior. So as soon as we're done with a seat or a carpet, we're going to start placing air movers down to immediately start doing the drying process. So we have 4 of these air movers at the shop, and we have 2 in the van, and we have 2 of these at the shop. Now, pros and cons of this is this one is useful it's useful overall. These are both useful. The stronger one that will dry it faster is this one, the X Power, because it shoots in one way, and you can tell it's much stronger than this one. But depending on what you're drying, since this one shoots 360 degrees down, it kind of covers a larger area versus this one just shoots straight. But this one is a lot stronger, so if you're trying to dry a specific seat, this one will get the job done quicker. But if you have enough time, setting 2 of these down will dry the entire back row faster than this one, if that makes sense. We use them interchangeably. It's not like we default this one every time to a seat. It's not like we default this one every time to carpeting. It just depends on what we're doing. But we will put this one on the carpeting more often than this one if needed. So when we're doing like a smoke odor removal or some type of odor removal, and we're gonna run the ozone machine, the interior has to be completely dry. So when we get to, and we need to expedite the drying process, because again, like, we want to get to the ozone treatment. We want to run 1 or 2 treatments. Each treatment might be 1 to 2-3 hours depending on the severity of the odor. So we'll put 4 of the air movers and 1 or 2 of these down just to try to blow as much air into it to dry everything that we can. Like, we will not put the ozone until everything is dry. So that's why, like, we have so many, because if we have a car here, like, we have to get it up to the next phase. That we can roll that one out, get started on the ozone, pull the next vehicle in and start working on that one. So this will be overkill if you're always mobile, if you're doing 1 or 2 cars per day. But especially in the shop setting, if you're doing a lot of interiors or interior type work, you need to speed up that dry process. So having air movers on hand is very helpful. I believe this one is $99, and I think this one is like $112. I've literally, I don't know if it's this. Yeah, it's this one. I've had this one since 2014, or let's like 15, 16. I don't know. 4 years, like at least a minimum of 4 years, and it's still going strong. I've never cleaned anything before, you know, I admit, but it's still going strong. Like, I have no problems with this one for the last 4 or 5 years. So it just goes to show, like, you plug it in, it works, and it turn on. This one also no problems. I think we may have been like kind of stretching the cord too much, and we've kind of I think some of the cables kind of, you know, when you bend a cable too much. So I think this one is kind of like malfunctioning because of, like, maybe because our fault, I don't know. But anyways, they're both great machines, and that's how we do it. And another side benefit to these, well, specifically the X Power, is that when we're working on an interior and we're just working on it, we don't need to dry it yet. We'll put both of these air movers to the side of the vehicle, pointing to the interior. That way, it keeps us cool, right? Because in the shop, there's no fan, there's no AC, so we put the air movers to the side, and it gives us a good enough air to where, like, it feels comfortable, where, like, you're not completely sweating anymore. So that's also a big benefit. With this one, what we also do, which obviously is when we're done for the day, and we have to clean up the floor, and there might be water on the ground or water on the reclamation mat, we'll put both of these down just to drop the floor and dry off the mat. So that's a pretty obvious sign. But overall, that's how we do it. Like I said, super simple, super short, very direct. If you're interested in the tools that we're using, just check down below in the description box. You can also find the ultimate guide to start your detailing business. You can find my podcast, the Detailing Business Class podcast, where 99% of it is business, marketing, sales focused. So if you want to start your business and get more education, check out the podcast, the Detailing Business Class podcast. And if you'd like us to service your vehicle, if you're in the Houston, Texas area, you can find a link down there to fill out a form, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. All right, anyways, I'll end the video right here. Hope you learned something, and I'll talk to you guys on the next one.